Hello. So it's my birthday today. I am 36 and I felt compelled, called to make this video. Just kind of, going over everything that I am grateful for and kind of things that I've been learning and unpacking lately. And yeah, this is just gonna be very off the cuff, no plan. See what comes out. So yeah, 36. Hard to believe. I feel like everybody goes through this as they get older, that the time just goes by faster every year, which makes it even more poignantly clear that it is so important to really just cherish every moment and the time that we have. And one of the main things for me is just, the older I get, the more I've learned to appreciate and treasure my family. Yeah, I'm an only child. I don't have any siblings. My parents are still married and both of them are still alive, and we have a really good relationship. It's not perfect. We're maybe not like super, super close, but we're pretty close, and we're all very supportive of each other. And I just really, really value that. It hasn't always been easy. I think I felt very isolated when I was growing up. I felt super, super lonely. Just because I felt like I didn't have anyone that I could speak to who was going through the same thing that I was. It was massive changes that I would have to undergo every time we moved out of the country. You'd live somewhere for a few years and then pack up and come back to South Africa. And there was major culture shock involved all the time. And I don't know, there's this like straddling of two worlds, more than two worlds, these different worlds, that it just, I don't know. I felt really alone, and I know other people have gone through similar things. I just didn't feel like I had anyone that I could relate with when I was going through it. And I also didn't really understand how it was impacting me. It was really difficult, but I now really appreciate those experiences and those lessons. And yes, I know I have a towel on my head. I just washed my hair. And you know what? This is life. I just felt like that probably should have been addressed earlier. Right. So, what is my point? My point is that family is precious, and maybe your family is not so good for you, but family isn't just about who you're related to. Family is something that we cultivate together with other people that we have community with and that we care about and love, and it doesn't just have to be your blood. That is very, very apparent to me. So some of the things I am grateful for: my family, my parents, Anton, my love, my beautiful cat, our sweet little baby. He is so precious to us, and he is like a real treasure. But yeah, I don't know, this like little three person, I count the cat as a person. The cat, what am I saying? Our baby, he's a person. He's maybe not a human, but he counts as a person to us. Yeah, so grateful for that. It has made such a difference in my life, and it just makes me feel so appreciative of the love that I receive on a daily basis, and that I'm able to show love in return. You know, it's a beautiful thing, and yeah, it really is very precious. Every moment together is a gift, and yeah, again, the older I get, the more I just realize that nothing is guaranteed, right? It's just life and death. That is what we're here with. That's what we're given, and you got to make the most of it. So yeah, I'm actually also very grateful to have that as a lesson that I have internalized. Things change in a moment, in a heartbeat, you know, and then suddenly life is just never the same as what it was before. And that's a hard lesson to learn. That's really hard. So, you know, if you are healthy, if you are able-bodied, if you have friends and family, community, you know, those are the things that just make life worth living. And everything else is a bonus after that. You know, we got to learn to appreciate each other and all the difficulties that we have as humans, you know? Like, I'm also really learning to appreciate tolerance as a virtue, and being tolerant of different opinions and different ways of living and ways of viewing the world. You know, not everyone has to agree with me. In fact, I encourage disagreement because it's healthy, you know, it's how we open up new ideas and expand each other together, you know? Because, like, what's the point if just one person is on, like, a higher level? That's not, you know, I'm not for a power grab. It's not my style. I want everyone, all beings, to be happy and healthy and live without pain and suffering, you know, as a baseline for their daily existence. And I think that's totally possible. I think if we can just, you know, untangle those little knots inside, it makes a really big difference. I know for me it has. And sometimes the most profound changes, they're not really visible on the outside, you know? It's like, it affects the way that you flow through each moment of your life. And those are things that they're hard to express to other people, just what a difference that makes, you know? But for me, it's meant going from like literally not being able to feel things because I cut myself off so much, because everything felt like too much, because I had no idea what was cooking. The difference between how I was 10 years ago to now is mind-blowing, actually. So if you're 26 and you feel like you don't know what the fuck is going on, like there's no hope, you are behind, you don't have a plan, I'm here to tell you it's all good. You don't need to know. You just have to fucking show up and, you know, be willing to make your life a good one for you. And that doesn't mean that you have to work yourself into the ground or, sacrifice your happiness on a day for some nebulous future where you are, I don't know, suddenly one day somehow happy and everything is perfect, because it doesn't work that way. It's all about in the moment now, in each moment, doing the thing that is making your life better. And again, it's not like about being productive or like a fucking high performance or sometimes it's about slowing down and just taking a second to notice what is going on with you. How are you going through the day? Am I rushing from one thing to the next? Am I able to actually focus, or am I just scattered and spread way too thin from the moment I wake up? Because that's how I used to feel. And I have been learning to grow my capacity to firstly acknowledge my own needs and what's going on within myself, which is not easy either. It's taken a lot of work, and it's been worth it. Honestly, I am so much better than I used to be. I would if just one example, right, is that I would melt down in the kitchen on an almost daily basis just because there were some dishes, and I'm not saying the kitchen was not a mess, it's not a mess, but it's so cluttered and overwhelming for me that I couldn't, walking into that straight after I wake up would just overload me completely, and I would actually legitimately have a meltdown, which seems crazy, right? It seems crazy, and that's part of the problem, is me thinking that it's crazy, but this is what I'm facing, right? That's what I had to deal with. I had to confront the fact that this situation was doing this to me, and I can't expect the situation to just change. I got to do something, right? So firstly, it started with me understanding why I was having these meltdowns, and then changing, in the present moment at the time, learning that I can do myself favors, I can do that. I can consider myself tomorrow morning and think, hey, you know what? Maybe actually I can do that morning version of Mia a huge solid and just spend 10 minutes tonight. Even though I don't feel like it, I can spend 10 minutes and give myself that gift of peace of mind when I wake up. And that's accountability, right? That is me saying that, okay, sure, I maybe am not responsible for the fact that I have these meltdowns, but I have control in this situation. I don't have to just sit there and experience this every day and suffer with it, I can do something, I can take actions, I can make changes that help me, that serve me, and they're not huge things. And that's the whole thing, is that it's all about little changes that you make on a daily basis, gradually over time, and they add up. They really add up. It's amazing. I'm getting so amped talking about this because it's changed my life. Look, I can't even, what's another thing? Letting go of the past and past anger, that's another thing. I was so angry for such a long time. So angry, and it was subliminal. Subconscious. I didn't even really recognize it. But here's how it came out, right? I would have these dreams for many years, every now and then, these dreams where I am just raging at my parents. You know, that anger, the rocky relationship that I mentioned before. Yeah, you know, I had deep, deeply buried, suppressed anger, you know, from feeling like my power was taken away, like my life was ripped apart, being uprooted. Yeah, you know, it was hard for me, and I felt completely misunderstood because my parents came from one world and took me into another that they had no no footing in, you know. It's not, and I don't blame them, you know. I don't blame them for being ignorant at the time, because ignorance isn't something you can blame somebody for. And that's another thing that I've learned, right? So like the tolerance comes in here, because when we start blaming people for being ignorant, it cuts that person off from growth, right? Because you're shaming them for not knowing something. And most of the time, shame doesn't help people. It really doesn't. Um, you know, unless you really can feel remorse. I don't know, whatever. Like, I just don't think that shame is a healthy thing to carry around with you. You got to process it, you got to change so that you don't if it's your own behavior that caused the shame, you have to be able to see that and understand why you behave that way, but not carry the shame around, because the shame just kind of, it oftentimes just seems to end up in a spiral, you know, where you just use it as an excuse to not try to be better, you know, or to just, I don't know, whatever. Like, I'm not a psychologist, psychiatrist. I'm just somebody who's had shame and still experiences shame, but I've done a lot of work trying to, you know, improve myself and my life. And it's not just an endless project. It's not just me thinking about things in my head. It's me realizing things and then making changes in how I carry myself and in what I do, and in, you know, like, half the time it's not even what you do, but how you do it. That is all the difference. Because again, are you just rushing from one thing to the next? Or are you just checking boxes? Or are you just all about the outcome? Because life isn't an outcome. Life is a process. It's an unfolding. And if you can learn to embrace the unfolding and the unknown, and like that potential of miracles happening all around you, instead of just negging yourself, damn, what a difference that stuff makes. Like, that is really, really where it's at, you know? Yeah, and for me, one of the main, such a key thing is just believing that it is possible to have a better life. You know, I think my experience from speaking to other people about this kind of thing is that most people, before they even dare to vocalize their wild, crazy, outlandish dreams and hopes for their lives, they're already saying, oh no, but that's never gonna happen. I'm never gonna have that. I can't, whatever. Like, yeah, you will never have that if you don't believe that it's possible, because then you won't even try to get the life that you want, you know? So, yeah, chew on that. I don't know if this is all of the stuff that I wanted to talk about. I don't really know what what's cooking here either. It's just, like I said, off the cuff. I felt quite compelled to make this and just take a moment for myself to reflect on my 36 years and the major things that have really shifted for me and that make turning 36 actually feel exciting and not daunting, you know? So yeah, I think that's me for today. Let me know if it's your birthday, how old you're turning. I'm just kidding. Who cares, right? But yeah, any comments, drop them down below. Like and subscribe. Peace out. Thank you guys. I really appreciate you if you've stuck around till the end.